It's time for the Ryan and Goodman pod. Goodman is really busy. He's doing the whole college basketball thing. I'm going to do my best to fill in, but this just means more FaceTime and more airtime for Bob Ryan. Bob, we had a lot to talk about today here. We've talked about Simmons. You've been adamant you don't want to trade Jaylen Brown for Simmons. But what do you think about, there's a report out there that that's a possibility. Some other reports have been shooting it down. Your thoughts?
We have discussed all year about the Simmons-Tatum quandary, if you will. Not Simmons, excuse me, the Brown-Tatum quandary, if you will. Ideally, that they need to play together better than we've seen, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. I understand that in theory you were importing a point guard who would facilitate matters theoretically for the Celtics, remove Marcus Smart from his ball handling duties, let him be Marcus Smart, and not have this additional worry, even though he seems to like embrace it. It's not his job. Anyway, okay, I understand all that. However, Ben Simmons is an oddity unlike any in the 75-year history of the NBA. Ben Simmons, there's never been a player of consequence, and an all-star level consequence, all-star participant, all-defensive team, etc., who has got such a monumental flaw in his game. Now, we've had big men in the past who couldn't shoot free throws, most notably Shaq, and there were others, even worse, believe me, that weren't as good as he was at all. Wilt in his prime, went through this, Okay, fine. We've had that. Nothing below center like this, only isolated occurrences. George McGinnis, at the end of his career, developed a free throw phobia to the extent that he wouldn't even go to the basket so he wouldn't get fouled. And it basically brought a premature end to his career. But that's isolated. This is a alleged, nobody calls him a point guard, but he's a point guard. He's 6'9". He doesn't, and he handles the ball and he runs the team and fine. But what he did, he became a detriment to his team in the most important games of the year last year, had to be removed. He shot 34% from the foul line in the playoffs. And he famously passed up, he's supposed to be an inside guy, even passed up a dunk at a propitious moment against the Hawks last year, which shocked everybody. He's got a problem. Now, if he were a rookie and this was what's happening, you'd say, well, there's time to iron it out. He'll fix it. They'll help him fix it. He's not a rookie. He's deep into his career now. I know he's still young, but he's 4 or 5 years into his career. And he's digging in. Apparently there's been all kinds of off-season trouble. He's cited mental health. Oh God, we don't want to touch that third rail. Fine. Right. More power to him. But then there's reports that he's resisting treatment or what they are proposing to help him. He has a right to do that. I understand. But you want to fool with this?
Well, let's break it down. I mean, Bob, let's have fun with this. Bob, you're right. I mean, I understand, but let's break it down and let's look at. We have time. This is regular TV. There's nobody saying rap. So let's break it down because we'll take a look at the different angles. Okay, so Jaylen Brown, to me, the Jaylen Brown Tatum thing's not going to work. Marcus Smart is another whole other kettle of fish, right? But the Tatum Brown thing just isn't going to work for whatever reason. It just seems when one's on, the other's off, and the other's on, the other's off, and they can't succeed successfully together. Plus, Brown's hurt all the time. So you sit there and you say, okay, are the Celtics going to win a title with this group? It doesn't look it. Now, Tatum is a guy that needs the ball to score. The one thing that you mentioned about Simmons is he can pass the ball, and he doesn't like to pass the ball. So let's go outside the box. Swing to the fences. If you're Brad, you're sitting there. These guys aren't going to win it together. I've tried. He's coached it. I don't know if it's going to work. If you get Simmons, and if Ime, right, who knows the guy, can reach him, I know it's like buying a lottery ticket, but is there something there?
See, there's so many ways to look at this. I'm thinking that if Doc couldn't reach him, I don't know who's going to reach him.
Well, that's a good point.
Doc's a people guy. He's a bright guy. He's seen so much. What hasn't he seen? And going back to his rookie year, which I believe was 82, 83. Anyway. I just think he's a special guy, and I just don't. If he couldn't unlock this, I don't know.
You take Simmons. All right, let's talk about. Okay, Simmons right now doesn't like to shoot. Okay, so if you don't have Marcus, if Brown's gone, and you have Simmons running the point with Tatum, would their offense be any worse?
How many? Well, I don't know how many. Well, who are you going to replace? Who are you going to replace Tatum with? Brown.
No, Brown's gone. I mean Brown.
But
if you say you're bringing in Simmons runs the offense. His job is to get the ball to Tatum. It's Tatum's team. He's got to score every night. All the pressure's on him, right? And then Marcus, maybe you deal him, right? And then it becomes the Simmons and Tatum show. Would they be worse off than they are now?
Well, I don't see how to. I would think so myself. I
mean, they're in 11th place. You know what I mean?
Well, I know 8 games into the season, and 3 of the games were winnable. And I'm not panicking. And I'm not giving up on Brown and Tatum because they've gone too far already. They've gone to finals, the conference finals.
I know. I understand, Bob.
It's a lot that Brown is the key because I think Brown's the key because we don't know what's going on in his head in terms of the fact that last year he had a big breakthrough year, made the All-Star team, averaged 24 points a game, elevated his status. He was always known as a good defensive player. Suddenly he's scoring mid-20s, which is a big deal.
Right.
But he's not Jason Tatum. Is he trying to be Jason? Is he resign? Can he resign himself to the idea that he's not Jason Tatum? Maybe not. I'm not sure that can't happen, but you asked the question, you remove him, where are those points coming from? Was Tatum going to average 40? No. It's not going to average 40. Where's it coming from? Unless, I'm a big believer that Neesmith should be playing more, but there must be some reason why he isn't. I'm not sure what it is, what he's not doing in practice.
I think we both agree if there's a way you could pull off this deal and keep Brown and Tatum, then I think it's worth it.
But you're not going to be able to get. But the other thing is this, though. We have to. There's so much. It's just. How many times did we mention this? In the I'll say it for the 1,000th time. In the off season, we just went through with all the myriad of NBA issues that were possible to talk about. The one that fascinated me the most, and I thought was the number one thing for me, what, if anything, is the market value for Ben Simmons?
Yeah.
Given the odd nature, to be polite, odd nature of his game. Okay. Which the whole world got to see the ramifications of his foibles last year. And Doc had to get him out of the damn game. Okay. So everybody who saw it. So Daryl Morey now has to trade him, supposedly. What's he going to get for him? Well, apparently now we don't know for sure. Rumors were he was looking for 3 number ones, this and that. But that's not verifiable. We don't know what he really was asking for, right. Nor do we know if that was just a negotiating starting point, kind of thing, and we'll go from there, kind of thing. But what is the market value for him?
Well, they're trying to set it. They're trying to set it with Brown. But to me, I find it fascinating because I find it intriguing and fascinating because I do wonder what a change of scenery would do for Simmons. Okay, let's move on right now.
I just want to say one thing about the 76ers who are playing pretty well. And they're 8-2 as we speak. Well, they got a guy. All right, look, I've been a fan of Tyrese Maxey, since I first saw him in Kentucky, and he's getting a chance to play. And I think he's not. He may never be I don't know. He may be an all-star. He may be Jalen Brunson level. He may be. I was going to say Mike Conley level because he gets paid $30 million a year. But he might be Mike Conley someday. Maxey. They may be doing very fine. Just fine with Maxey this year. We'll see.
Well, I was going to say the Sixers are 8-2 as we speak. They're on top of the division and top of the conference. Yeah. And Doc Rivers, I want to talk about Doc because I've had many arguments over Doc lately. I think he's a terrific coach. I think someday I'd love to see him in the Hall of Fame as a coach. He's the 10th guy to get 1,000 wins.
Yeah, he's got to get 1,000. He's got 1,000.
Yeah, he's got 1,000 wins. So I got to tell you. So I'm asking you, is he overrated or is he underrated?
Well, you're asking, it's a tough one for me because I'm a Docophile.
So am I.
A big one. And I consider him, if not a friend, certainly a very good acquaintance. And I really, I like my relationship with him. I'll put it that way. He got to be a bit overrated I may have overrated him for a while, so I don't think he's underrated. No, I don't think at all. I think he's reproven. I think he's, the thing, he got one thing hanging over his head is that people expected more out of the Clippers, and he has lost more seventh games than any coach in history. That is not, his teams have lost more seventh games under his tutelage than any coach in history. That's not a thing you like to have. That's not number one, your leading thing on your resume that you want on your resume. You got to those seventh games. A lot of coaches never got that far, but he did get them, and he's got more seventh game losses than anybody. He's got the one championship, and now we all know. Now, however, counter argument, what ifs and ands and candy butts and all that stuff. But you and I know, Gary, that in 2009, the next year, they were even better than they were. Yeah. And then KG got hurt.
Right.
Period.
Well, they were going to win another one.
They didn't have it.
They were going to win another one.
And then in 10, they're up 3-2, and Perkins gets hurt. And after loafing all year and collecting the paychecks, Rashid, they needed one game out of him, and they couldn't get it.
Right.
They couldn't get it. They needed a game out of him, couldn't get it. They could have won 3 in a row very easily, and certainly 2. And then I think we wouldn't be having any further discussion about Doc's Hall of Fame credentials.
Well, I still sit there, and, I've always been a fan of Danny as a GM overall. I know the Kyrie thing is he's taken some hit. He took some hits lately on his way out the door. But, if Perkins doesn't get traded, if they stick with Perk that season, and as opposed to going with Shaq, maybe they wouldn't win there too. So there's no question that he was close to either a second or a third one here.
Absolutely.
My thing with Doc, where I think he gets an unfair shake, is with the Clippers, is you had a racist owner who shook the foundation of the franchise. And that can't be understated.
Doc
was a mess.
Everything fell on his shoulders at that point. Yeah, he's the face of the team. He's the spokesperson for the team. He's got to make not to make excuses, but he's got to dance around the fact that Sterling was Sterling and all that. Yeah, and who knows? Yeah, there were a lot of ramifications to that. It was a very unnatural situation. So I absolutely.
I give him a pass for the Clippers. I give him a pass because, and I have had arguments. People said he didn't get the job done with the Clippers. He choked with the Clippers. And I said, guys, you got to understand something. With players in the NBA, with players with the way they're viewing owners now, and believe me, if I was a player, if I'm a player and I'm a person of color, if I'm, and I look at some of these owners and the way that they behaved, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Which brings me to the next question. I want to talk about Robert Sarver. He's the guy with the Suns. And we all know, you can't have this language. This is terrible. All people need to be treated equal. You cannot speak ill about various ethnicities, and you shouldn't. It's just wrong. But this guy continues to bully people, allegedly racist remarks, sexist remarks. So we all know that's bad. There's no controversy. But I wonder, Bob, will the NBA have to vet owners to a greater degree down the road, to the point where they even look into their past when it comes to opinions, when it comes to things that they say? And will the PA get involved when somebody's trying to enter the league?
Well, they're going to have this. With the scrutiny that this is getting, and the on top of we just came out of the mess of Sterling not too long ago. Perhaps it's the case. That's true. Remember though that you're asking the other type of people that make up the ownership to pass that judgment, because the teams get approved, by other owners. I got new owners get approved by other owners. There's a certain amount of empathy that these billionaires have for each other, I would guess. And there might be some rivalries too with certain businesses, but still, it's a good question. But meanwhile, how much influence can the league exert when, after all, commissioners are still at the employees of the owners? Well,
that's it. And out of all the leagues, the NBA is a players' league. The NBA, the players wield a lot of power, and I'm fine with that. And that's fine. They're the stars. They're the money makers. Good. If a player, I'm one of those guys. If a player can navigate where he goes, where he wants to go, it's America. God bless him. I just wonder now.
Yeah, I think there'll be further scrutiny on who people are.
Yeah, I think, and I hope there is.
There's no doubt about it. And certainly the Players Association should try to, rattle their saber as much as they can to see how this goes. Yeah.
All right. So last year, when I wondered about Steph Curry, because last year I was like, is Steph Curry a Kevin Durant? Is Steph Curry, a LeBron James? Is he a guy? Is he a guy alone that can bring a team to the top? And I think, this year the Warriors are off and running. I mean, they have the best league. They have the best record in the league as we speak, at 8-1. So, your opinion of Steph Curry is a true franchise player. And are we going to see a Warrior championship before Kevin Durant wins a title in New Jersey or Brooklyn?
They're off to a surprisingly good start, and they're still talking about Thompson coming back, right, by January. Yeah. And one of the reasons they are, Jordan Poole, who certainly is not a household name, is off to a terrific start, helping Curry. Damian Lee's had some games too, and people don't know who he is either. I mean, I had to go refresh myself as who the hell Damian Lee was. Draymond Green is shooting quietly 57% from the floor. I looked that up, and he does his thing. I still not totally. I got to watch him play more because I want to see how they're doing all this. Meanwhile, Curry has had a couple of curious games in which he hasn't scored in the fourth quarter. Now, one of them, it was a garbage game. He didn't have to, but there were a couple they won that actually he had all his points, 30-some points in the first three quarters. I don't know what that was all about, and didn't score in the fourth. But he's still at the peak of his powers, even though he's over 30 now. He's the greatest shooter of all time. Nobody has ever been able to shoot from that distance with that degree of consistency, get his own shot anytime he wants from that distance. To me, the discussions begin with him.
I wonder about the Nets. When I saw how well the Warriors were off and the fact that, Thompson still hasn't come back yet. You mentioned Jordan Poole, Draymond doesn't do anything. Well, he's quietly shooting that. I mean, I've never heard the word quietly used to describe him, but I understand what you're saying. I just wonder now if the Warriors would win before Durant and the Nets, and I'm kind of rooting for it. I mean, I don't dislike Kevin Durant, but I'm like, damn, dude, you had a good deal in Golden State. Why'd you have to leave? So kind of rooting for the Warriors to get there before him.
Because I don't know. All we can do is play armchair psychologist. I think he was stunned at the scope of the negative reaction to his going to Golden State. He was not ready for that backlash that people simply perceived him as piling on rather than sticking it out in OKC, and doing that. And that when he went to Golden State, it was a pile on thing he was, he had every personal right to go live where he wanted to live with this, all that stuff. Fine. I read, I remember a big SI article about him trying to, his best to explain himself in that regard. But he never, so now, okay, I'll show you. But then he's going to I'll get out of there, but he's going to another one, I can win without those guys. But now he's going to play with he went there first. I'm sorry. Now, and he recruits Kyrie.
Right. Oh, yeah.
He recruits Kyrie. And I don't know to what extent he recruited Harden, but he definitely recruited Kyrie.
Well,
let me just say he's not a bad person. He's a sensitive guy. There's no question about it. And he's not a dumb guy either. And he's a little complicated in that regard. Let me say this: at this point in time, it's a consensus belief, and I subscribe to it. He is the best player in the world right now.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, I find him a little frustrating. He is complicated, but I loved his effort last year. I felt bad for him. He was all alone in the playoffs. The other two, MIA.
He's really, 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 really good, and it's to the point where he's pushing, he's knocking, making me revise my all-time starting five. I got to worry about do I have to bump Larry for him?
Oh, God, Robert.
I'm just going to be honest. And, nobody loves Larry more than I do. But I'm just going to say I'd have to listen to an argument. I'd have to listen to someone wanting to make that argument. I will still stick up for Larry. Oh, LeBron. It's easy. All-time starting five.
Excuse me, but I kind of have a hard time figuring out where the hell LeBron is. I mean, you could.
He's got the ball all the time now, and he's a surrogate point guard. But if you were going to construct the all-time team, he would not be the point guard.
He'd be a guard. Okay, who's the all-time team? So right now you got Bird, LeBron, and who else?
It's Michael and Magic's the backcourt, and then the center. let the arguments begin. There's 3 candidates for depending on who you love. It's Russell, Wilt, Kareem. Nothing's ever changed. It's still one of those 3. And,
I love Russ, but Kareem, I'd have to go.
If only we could have seen what would have happened. Kareem's rookie year was the year after Russell. He came in the year after Russell left. He did play against Wilt, and he had. It was a good trade-off thing. It's a matter of, Wilt had a rebound year against him. The year after they won, Wilt outplayed him the following year in the playoffs at Wilt's advanced age. He did outplay him that year in 72 after Kareem won a championship in 71.
Right,
anyway, there's your team. The 4/5 of it to me is unarguable. Your backcourt is still Michael and Magic, and your forwards are LeBron and Larry. But I can see people thinking that they want to make Durant is awful good.
He's a great player. I get it. It pains me so, but I totally get it. Okay, Robert, maybe next week, Mr. Goodman, Mr. College Basketball Snob will join us. I don't know.
I'm going to be going to New York myself to see that doubleheader at the Garden on Tuesday night.
Any thoughts?
November. Well, it's the beginning of the Coach K farewell tour. My big curiosity is going to be looking at Kentucky because Coach Cal has reinvented himself again. This time, it's all about transfers? Well, I'll get my transfers. First it was about 4-star recruits and now it's about 5-star recruits. Now it's about transfers. And he's going to have a lot of transfers playing prominent roles in addition to a couple of blue chippers from, the class of, this year's class. So I'm curious to see them more than anything. And, but you've got Izzo, Self, Calipari, and Coach K banging heads tomorrow night.
I love Izzo. Izzo is one of my favorite coaches. I heard to play for him is a nightmare. A nightmare. He's so tough, but I love Izzo. Izzo's my favorite coach.
All 5 feet 6 of them. Yeah.
Oh, I do. I love him though. I love his teams. Michigan. That guy, dude, man. He's my favorite college coach. Bob Ryan, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week, my friend.